All right, guys, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this video. But I'm going to get right into it, guys. We're going to talk for about 45 minutes here on underwriting, how it actually works, right? There's different types of underwritings. There's different criteria that are needed for underwriting. We're going to talk about those today. We're going to talk about different companies and how they operate, which ones pay daily, which ones don't pay daily, which ones have this a typical requirement, which ones are going to require the medicals, which ones are not, which ones are simplified issue. We're going to talk about all that stuff today. So I want to make sure that if you guys have any questions, however, that we can address those questions right away. You see, it's my belief that good training requires more than just showing you how to present something on the field. There's a lot of behind the scenes that goes into this business. Case designing, understanding how to illustration design is important. Understanding underwriting is important. Understanding what happens after underwriting is important. There's so many phases that have to happen that if just because you know how to present out to the field, if you don't know how to do all the behind the scenes stuff, what ends up happening is you need a field trainer to constantly help you in that world. And if you constantly need a field trainer, you're constantly splitting commissions. So I'm going to give you training today that hopefully could give you a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? More self-confidence, give you a little more self-confidence in that journey that you have of learning how to run the business by yourself. Okay. I've been in this business now for 15 years. And I can tell you that it's a liberating feeling, and I didn't start to feel that liberation up until maybe a year and a half, 2 years in. It's a liberating feeling when you know that if everybody around you called in sick, every single person around you called in sick, you could still operate your business without having to pause anything because you're waiting on somebody else. Okay, and that's a good feeling. I know what it is to be in your side of the fence where you're trying to get access to your trainer's calendar, but you can't. You're trying to get field training done, but you can't. You're trying to case design, but you can't. You're trying to get things underwritten and you don't know. They're calling you because maybe it's one of your leads or one of your friends and family. They're calling you to see kind of where the status is, but you don't really know how to answer them. You're trying to plan for next week's budget, but you don't know what's paying out, what's not paying out. I know what that feels like. And so because I know what that feels like, I want to try to make that feeling, that exposure as least as possible for every single person here. Now, does that mean you're not going to feel that way ever? It's impossible for me to give you that. You're going to feel like that sometimes. You are. But the faster you fall forward, the faster you're willing to go, okay, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to figure it out. The faster you're willing to understand that it's your job to take it from point A to point B to point C to point D, the faster you accept that and realize that it's a constant education, right? Look at the name Kaizen, right? The consistent, never-ending growth. It's constant education for yourself. The faster you realize it, the faster you'll be able to independently operate. And everybody here knows that any kind of leak, the biggest leak you can have in a business, is when you need one person to get from this step to the next step. When your business needs somebody to help you go from here to here, that's a leak. So the first leak you got to plug is that one. You got to make it so that you don't necessarily need anybody to generate income and run your business as long as you're there in place. Once you've been able to replace everybody but yourself, then your next step is to replace yourself. Right? A lot of people look at that backwards. They go, no, I'm going to learn the business. I'm going to learn how to recruit. Right? And then eventually I'll just live on overrides. Yes, theoretically it's right. But you first have to know how to run the business by yourself. You first got to be able to remove everybody and still run your business, still generate income before you can replace yourself. When you replace yourself, it's because other people are operating their business completely independent of you. But you first got to be able to do it yourself. So we're going to talk about that today. Okay. So what questions do you guys have off the top of your head when it comes to underwriting, medical exams, prerequisites, definitions of terms, anything at all that has to do with that topic? I want to address that. And I want to write those questions down, and then I'm going to talk about underwriting and make sure we address those questions. Anybody have any immediate questions?
If we schedule our own pyramid exam, does North American charge your FMO if they double book?
Gotcha.
Pyramid exam.
So North American pyramid exam. who pays what if it's double booked? Okay. All right. Any other questions? Any more questions?
What's the best way to handle when it needs a medical history?
When it needs a medical history, okay.
Yeah, and the doctor's not like complying. What's the best way to options to go about that?
Okay, how to handle APSs delayed. Okay. Any other questions? It's a good question, by the way, one. Questions? Anybody else? Come on now.
Which companies can we communicate directly with the underwriter, and which companies we have to go through the IMO?
Gotcha. Which companies can we communicate directly? Gotcha. And which ones we got to go through the IMO? Good question. Any other questions?
Yeah, Tony, are we, how much do you know about the electronic signatures on documents? Which ones are we allowed to use electronic signatures on?
E-sign. I'll address all of that because there's definitely some things there we got to talk about. Okay. Any other questions? Some good questions, by the way, just so you guys know. I'm glad you guys brought those up because I probably would have thought about it along the way, but I didn't have it in the top of my head right now. But those are good questions. Okay, great. So let me get into it, right? And I'm going to make sure that along the way I answer these questions, and when I answer them, I'll point them out, and I'll make sure that before we're done, I look back at those questions and make sure that I answer them. And if any more come up along the way, guys, just feel free to be like, hey, Tony, I got a question. Can you add it to the list? And we'll add it, okay? So, all right. So let's first talk about this. What it is to be in JIT status versus writing agent status, okay? JIT stands for just-in-time status. Just-in-time means you have already pre-filled all of the contracting paperwork in order to get contracted with a company, but the company hasn't received your paperwork yet. Okay, just in time. We got all your paperwork just in time. Okay. The reason that's important to talk about is because sometimes you recruit somebody and you tell them, hey, listen, fill out all this paperwork and you're going to be contracted, right? And that's not the case. I want you to understand something. It costs money to put every time you put somebody through contracting, it costs money to the IMO and the FMO. It costs us money. So what we want to make sure of is that we're turning in your contracting paperwork we're turning it in when you have business to write. So what you'll notice when someone turns in their documents and creates their account and does everything they need to do in our back office, we're going to send them emails, which with every single company, and every email for every company will have all the contracting paperwork for you to electronically sign. They're going to fill it out. That doesn't mean we're going to submit it in. I mean, I want you to think about 200 agents, right? And let's say we get them each contracted with 8 companies. That's 1,600 contracts. If it costs $100 a contract, it's a decent amount of change, right? So the one thing we do, we're not going to turn in contracting paperwork until we know you have a piece of business to write. Okay. Yes, you can turn in business without having a writing number in the majority of all states, except Pennsylvania. Just have that on your radar. Pennsylvania is called a pre-appointment state, which means you need to have a writing number first before you turn in that business. Every company, however, has their own rules and regulations, and some companies might say, hey, we need to get contracts first, but it's not a generic rule. Generic rule, Pennsylvania, all the time. Well, if you guys decide you want to write business in PA, recruit in PA, they need to have writing numbers before you turn in business. For all intents and purposes, every other company, you can actually turn in the business with your contracting paperwork, even though you don't have your writing numbers just yet. Now, rule of thumb I would tell you is this. If you know you're going to turn in business, or if you know someone in your downline is going to turn in business, you know for sure, 100%, let us know ahead of time. Let us start the contracting process for you ahead of time so that when you do turn in your contracting, when you do turn in that first piece of business, even though you don't have a writing number, you're going to write the word pending under the writing number, and underwriting is going to begin, but your contracting already started ahead of time. Business will not approve or pay out until every writing agent has a writing number. So if you know you're about to write business, or you know one of your agents is about to write business, it's not hard to shoot a message over to Sandra and be like, hey, this person, he's about to write with this carrier. Can you start contracting? We know for sure they're going to do it. Okay, so that's the first step. Now, once you start getting your writing numbers, some people call it writing numbers, some people call it contracting numbers, some people call it agent codes. Basically, it's a number affiliated to you and that company. When you turn in business, that's your number. Once you start getting that writing number. Companies to be on the lookout for that are difficult, because they look at a couple things when you do contracting. They look at your criminal record. They look at your insurance history record. They look at your financial records, your credit scores, your delinquencies, your collections, anything like that. North American by far is the most difficult. I'm going to tell you right now. North American by far the most difficult. Here's something cool you're going to like. North American will more than likely 90% of the time never be in any type of an MLM model because of that. They won't. Another reason North American will more than likely never be in a multi-level marketing platform is because North American has one rule that even I had to learn. And that rule is this: they will only talk to one person inside of the IMO for underwriting purposes. So you as an agent do not have access to talk directly to the underwriter. There's somebody assigned that gets all the requirements for the entire company and then forwards all those requirements to the agent. So the agent can't just call up the underwriter and have a conversation with them. Those two things alone will make North American a company that will, number one, always be an A+ rated company, always be one of the top dogs. And in my opinion, I believe they put those stipulations in place to make sure that the high turnaround agencies, like the multi-level marketing operations that have high turnaround, and very low amounts of quality control of business, don't leverage them. Because let's be real, what does an MLM want? They want fast transaction, quick transaction. They're not too concerned with quality control. They're not too concerned with persistency. They're more concerned with getting people to be able to turn in business right away, regardless if it's good or bad business. And that's just my personal opinion. But nonetheless, North American has such strict rules that you'll probably never see North American as a company of choice in any type of multi-level marketing operation. You just probably won't. Okay. Now let me get right back into it. So they got to look at your credit to give you a writing number. North American is the most difficult one. You need to know that when you're talking to your recruits, your agents. Have a one-on-one private conversation with them. How's your credit? Do you have anything in there? Do you have any judgments, any liens, any collections? I mean, what do you have in there that could possibly stop you from getting contracted, right? You want to know it because you don't want to go through the process of running quotes, submitting an application without them having a writing number. Then you turn in the business and then guess what? They can't get contracted. Now you got to go find another company to write if that person is to receive a commission on it. That you get what I'm saying? I would avoid that process. Okay. Now let's get into underwriting. There's 3 types of policies you're going to find for underwriting. There's full underwriting acronym UW, underwriting UW, full underwriting, simplified underwriting. And the word simplified could be replaced with a number of different things that all mean fast. It really does. Some people call it rapid. Some people call it quick. I mean, at the end of the day, it's simplified means they're not going to request a paramedical exam to be done. They're not going to request it. Okay. And then there's guaranteed issued underwriting. That's the third. Okay. Those are the 3 types. Let's talk about each of them. I'll start from the last one that I just mentioned and move on to the first one because the first one is has the most stuff that needs to get done. Okay. Guaranteed issued underwriting means that they will guarantee the policy to get approved, regardless of the person's medical condition. Okay, Charday has a question. Let me take a look here real quick. Will the first piece of business you write always be a paper app? No. You need to know which companies require paper and which companies don't. So in our IMO's back office, we have access to what's called iPipelines, otherwise known as IGO. Any company that uses IGO as an electronic version to submit applications, you don't need a writing number and you can do electronic applications. Any company that doesn't use IGO and uses a different method of submitting electronic applications, means that you have to log into their company website to get access to that platform, and you cannot log in without a writing number. Do you see the kind of the loophole there? So what does that mean? That means that for all intents and purposes, write these down: Oxford, American National, and Allianz. Those three companies do not use IGO as their portal for electronic applications. They use something called Expert Apps, which is a different software. That means those three companies, if you don't have a writing number, you have no choice but to submit it as a paper application. You have no choice. Or you can wait till you get the writing number and then submit the application, but you might not want to wait, or maybe you do want to wait. It's kind of up to you. All the other companies, however, that we're leveraging and using, you can go right into the callums.com website, go to the IGO portal, and submit electronic applications without having a writing number. Hopefully that answers your question, Charmaine.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was the three companies again? Oxford, North American, and what?
Not North American. Oxford, American National, and Allianz. Oxford, American National, and Allianz. Now, here's my advice to you. If you're going out to the field and you know you're going to write business, let us know ahead of time if one of those carriers are ones that you're going to write, and we'll put it through contracting. I have no problem putting it through contracting. What I don't want to do is I don't want to put everybody through contracting under 8 companies, you know, and not know that each person has business to write. But trust me when I tell you, I do want you to get contracted and have business to write. Every single one of y'all. I really do. So let me go through again. Let me get back to it, right? Guaranteed issue. Guaranteed issue is just that. We're going to guarantee that the policy gets enforced regardless of medical. Most companies will say, hey, this person needs to live for at least 2 years before this policy pays out. It's very costly. It's very costly, and it typically is for people that are 40 years and older. Okay, this is like you have no choice insurance. You have no choice. You already got something bad happening that would cause you not to get approved. They're still going to pull credit. They're still going to pull, you know, your criminal record, but they're going to basically turn a blind eye to your medical history. That's what they're basically going to do. There's very few companies that offer guaranteed issue. Just so you know, the companies that offer that is Gerber, AIG, and I believe Great Western also has a platform for guaranteed issue. Those are the 3 kind of go-tos. Just so you know as well, guaranteed issue pays at a much lower commission level. So if you look at your comp, you're like, oh, I'm 90% with this company, chances are guaranteed issue, you're like a 40%. It's a much lower comp. And they're only going to advance about 6 months. They're not going to advance 9 months of commissions. They're only going to give you 6-month advance because it's a high risk product. That's guaranteed issue. Any questions about guaranteed issue before I move on?
What's the maximum that you could get as a guaranteed issue? What's the max dollar amount?
Every company is different. For all intensive purposes, think of it like a final expense. So it's not going to be a lot. It's going to be $5,000, $10,000. It's really there to help cover the final costs. That's not let me get $1 million of guaranteed issue. That ain't going to happen.
Okay, so I have a scenario where client was denied twice with Anaco and NLG maybe a couple of years ago.
Okay.
She's now since lost some weight. She's lost about 40 pounds.
Okay.
I just got a table rating from, what's his name? Neelam. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And but the young, she's young. She's in her 30s. So what company would you recommend for that?
Okay, so let me give you guys a little bit of gold here. Whenever you have somebody that has some medical issues, okay, and you don't know what company to go with, and this is rule of thumb even for me.
They denied her just because of her weight. She has no medical issues,
Okay.
By the way.
Perfect. So when it comes to weight, I had a client that did gastric bypass and he lost a crap ton of weight. I mean, he lost over 100 and some odd pounds in like 5 months. That's risky. So the 2 things you need to consider with weight is, yes, they do need to lose weight, but it needs to be in a healthy fashion. And most of the times, they need to show that they can maintain the weight down. So they need to see a period of time where the person lost weight and maintained it that way. Whenever you see someone that did gastric bypass, they typically have a 1-year waiting period before they'll even put insurance in it, because unfortunately there's a tendency where people will lose a dramatic amount of weight and then regain it again, and that's not good for the body. But onto the goal that I want to give you. Whenever you have someone that's like that, here's what you want to do. You want to take as many notes as possible on what the person has. These are the kind of questions you want to ask. When did it happen? Right? What medication are you currently taking? What, were you taking and are currently taking? Have you since recovered from the condition? How long has it been? And what kind of current, preventative care are you doing? Those are the kind of questions you want to ask. Obviously, there's more specific stuff based on the specific circumstance. So someone who loses weight, right? How did you lose the weight? Right? Was it diet controlled, exercise? Was it, Was it gastric bypass? Like, what caused you to lose that kind of weight? How much weight did you lose, and how long have you been able to keep it off, right? You want to get those questions. Get the person's name, gender, date of birth, all that stuff. Then what you're going to do is this. You're going to email that to your VP. Your VP has access directly to Neelam. Now, Neelam, so you guys know, is our risk management advisor. Her job is to shop out the whole market for you and report back. Here's what I found out when I talked to all the companies. This company said no, this company said no, this company said yes, this company said yes, but this is the rating, this is the this. She gives you all the stipulations the companies are saying based on the information you gave her. When you give her that information, chances are she's going to email you back a questionnaire specific to that condition that you have to get answered by the client. So call the client up, answer the questions, then send it back to her so she can start her legwork. Notice how I said here, reach out to your VP first. Here's why. The one thing that we want to avoid, we don't want to bog down our IMO's phone lines. If they start getting calls from agents that really don't understand the business, that's going to be a problem. So your best shot is first reach out to your VP, send them the info. Your VP will then communicate with Neelam, right? Or at least forward the information to Neelam, and then the legwork begins. But we want to try to streamline it. I've used Neelam for a bunch of cases, guys. To me, Neelam is gold because she does all the legwork that I would have essentially done. She'll do it for you. She emails it back to you in an Excel spreadsheet. Here's what each company says. Here's what I would do. Here's the ones you want to avoid. And then you decide which route you want to go. Does that make sense? Good?
Yes, perfectly. Yeah.
Okay.
I got most of that. I just need to figure out which company will accept the table rating of 5.
I can tell you this. The most flexible company from an underwriting standpoint that I've ever worked with is Prudential Mutual of Omaha. Those two, very flexible. The most difficult company that I've ever dealt with from an underwriting standpoint to this date, NLG, very, very strict on their underwriting. And from even North America's pretty strict on their underwriting as well too, just so you guys know. Allianz isn't that far off. And that again is something I'm giving you from experience. Okay. Now, we talked about guaranteed. Now let's talk about simplified. Simplified issued can be denied. The idea behind simplified issued is this: speed. Speed. They're going to do everything except for a medical exam. They're not going to ask the client to provide them a sample of their blood and urine. All they're going to say is, let me, answer a couple of these medical questions and let us look at your medical history, and we'll give you an approval or a decline. Most companies, it's either approve or decline, nothing in the middle. Some companies allow for certain ratings in between, and a rating just means that it costs a little bit more than the original quote, but they're willing to approve it. Now, there are certain things I need you to understand that are automatic declines in the simplified issued world. Okay, things like cancer, heart issues, diabetes. I mean, we're talking about massive medical issues. Those are like automatic declines. Don't even try. Don't even try. Don't even try. But, if you deal with a client that, you ask her him or her enough medical questions, and you find out, they haven't gone to the doctor in a few years, but they're overweight. They've got some medical issues that they're explaining to you, but that kind of person that's like healthy but could be heavily rated, that's the person you want to put through simplified underwriting. That's the person you want to look to. Now, somebody that's super healthy, You don't want to put through simplified underwriting. Because here's the reality. Somebody that's super healthy, hasn't had any medical issues, great body mass index, right? Their height and weight is good. You know what I mean? They're nothing wrong with them. They could probably get twice the amount, sometimes three times the amount of coverage if they do full underwriting. If they do full underwriting versus what they would get if they did simplified issue. Okay, I just recently had a client, 30 in his mid-30s, goes to the gym all the time, healthy as hell. Excuse my French. He got a $500,000 policy, simplified underwriting, for $230 a month. It was a term policy for 30 years. And I was like, wait, what? Did you get rated? No, it was just simplified underwriting. We got approved in 5 minutes. You know what happened, in my opinion, there? The agent was more concerned with his wallet than he was doing the right thing. And so I said, listen, I can almost triple the amount of insurance you get for that same price if you'll allow me to. He said, sure, bro, go for it. You know, I was able to get him $1 million of coverage. So I doubled his coverage. $500,000 of it was term insurance for 30 years with living benefits. The other $500,000, you know what it was? It was a GUL that doesn't expire until age 100 with a full return of premium option and living benefits. You know how much it was combined? $10 cheaper than what he was already paying. That's the right thing to do, in my opinion. I saved him some money, gave him a much better product, and doubled his coverage. I was willing to wait the 3, 4, or 5 weeks that it takes to underwrite fully underwritten products. So is there a place for simplified issue? Yes, there is. I'm not going to tell you there's not. Here's the place for simplified issue. Here's the place for simplified issue. People that you know are not going to come back at a preferred rating. Overweight people, people who are maybe pre-diabetic, high blood pressure, those types of people are more standard ratings when it comes to fully underwritten, where simplified rating is about the same. That person perfect for simplified. The person that is completely, utterly, I'm talking about like deathly afraid of needles, which those happen. I promise you, you'll run into them. I've run into them. That's simplified underwriting. It's 100% simplified underwriting. That's where your simplified underwriting kind of goes. Someone that is dealing with speed, like for example, I'm dealing right now with a client that is in the process of purchasing a home in Jamaica, and she reached out to me really late. She's like, listen, I have to put the bank, I have to do a collateral assignment on the bank, meaning when I get this mortgage, I need to have a life insurance policy on me that protects the lender if something happens to me. And we're closing tomorrow. And I need this now, right? That person has speed issues. I have no choice. I have to go simplified there. You get what I'm saying? I have to go simplified there, right? But that's what simplified underwriting is. They're still going to look at your medical history. They're still going to look at your driving record, your criminal record. They're going to look at all that stuff. But what they're not going to do is they're not going to require the person today, right now, to take a medical exam, a blood and a urine sample. That's basically, now simplified underwriting, just so you know, it's a little bit more in price, just like I explained. That's why if you know the person's going to be rated, it's going to cost them more if they do fully underwritten because of a few medical issues, right? Go simplified, because simplified pricing is about the same as standard rating pricing. Simplified also typically won't go higher than about $500,000. Every company's different. So for example, Foresters, I think, goes up to 400,000 maximum, right? Mutual of Omaha goes up to 300,000 maximum. The only company that I know goes pretty high simplified underwriting is SBLI. SBLI will go as high as 750,000 for their term insurance platform. Okay, simplified, meaning they guarantee that they will not do a medical. They will not require a medical exam on that person. Okay, that's what simplified underwriting is. Okay, now let's go into fully underwritten. The world that I come from is more in the fully underwritten world. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, in today's world, it's a challenge. It's a challenge when you know that there's certain policies that can get approved in 3 to 5 minutes versus some policies that might, take a week or 2 weeks to do. But I can tell you this. I will always forever make the decision to do my fiduciary responsibility and give the client what I think is best for them, regardless of the speed behind it. Do I believe in simplified underwriting? I do, absolutely. I do. I work mortgage protection leads, phenomenal simplified underwriting. Phenomenal. Because when someone wants mortgage protection, that just means they're looking for $300,000 of insurance or $400,000. Such a small amount of insurance that the cost of simplified versus the cost of fully underwritten, it's marginal. It's like a $10 difference. I would rather go simplified and not risk them getting declined over something that they don't even know that they might have. You get what I'm saying? So in that scenario, I will. But when the person is telling you, hey, you know, if in the fact finder you find out, hey, listen, you need more than 300,000-400,000 of coverage. You need $1 million, $1.5 million, because you got kids, you got this, you got this. When you know that whole gamut and they're healthy, go fully underwritten, guys. Do the right thing. I promise you, you'll make more money in the long run doing it that way because you've got conversion opportunities. You've got annual review opportunities. You've got cross-selling opportunities. You do. But again, if the person has medical issues or the person's only looking for 300,000 to 400,000 to cover a mortgage, simplified all the way. Simplified all the way. All the way. The guy that I just wrote up, the guy that I just replaced his $500,000 policy. If he would have said to me, Tony, listen, I only really need 250,000, 300,000 to cover this mortgage. I don't have any desire for any other insurance. And I do a full dime analysis on him. And like, bro, you need $1 million because of everything you want to do. He's like, no, I don't care about all that. I just need this covered. I would have kept him with his simplified plan because it's a small amount. It's not a big deal breaker. Okay, but I'm not going to do 300,000 with this company, another 300,000 with this company, another 400,000 with this company. Listen, bro, now you got 700,000 of insurance, all simplified. You're charging the client an arm and a leg. I guarantee you're going to lose that business if an agent like me runs into that person and educates them on the right types of insurances that are available. That's the reality. Let's talk full underwriting. Full underwriting gives you the opportunity to sell clients $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million of insurance. Best rating, premier, preferred rating. All the bells and whistles in regards to benefits are concerned. Okay, lowest cost of insurance products. However, that's the product that the insurance companies will do the most amount of work. They will. When the client signs that application, they're consenting to a full credit report. It's a soft pull, just so you know, in case your clients ask, their credit's not gonna get affected. They're gonna do an MVR report. MVR stands for medical vehicle record. They're gonna look at your driving record. Okay. They're gonna look at what was the first thing I just said? Full medical report. No, I'm sorry. I said credit report first, right? Yeah, I said credit. Then motor vehicle report, your driving record. Then they're gonna pull what's called your MIB, Medical Information Bureau. That's your medical records. And they're gonna look at everything there. And then on top of looking at everything there, if there's something that they see, something that they want more clarity on, they can request what's called APSs. APS stands for Attending Physician Statements. This answers one of the questions here, how to handle delayed underwriting. I think that was Juan who asked that question, right, Juan? Okay, so what you're talking about is how to handle delayed APSs. Here's the scenario. The insurance company partners up with a medical writing company, like an like an Exam One or APS. They have a medical underwriting company that they've contracted with. They reach out to that company and say, hey, listen, we need medical records for Dr. So-and-so who lives over, whose office is over here on this particular client, right? The client in the application already signed a release. That release is what the medical company sends to the doctor. Now, here's the problem with those reports. Doctors have zero urgency to provide those reports. They don't get paid for that. They pass that off to their nurses. Their nurses are extremely busy, especially I've seen with experience, if the doctor's office is in a very congested urban area, like a city, they're busy as all heck. They drag their feet. I'll tell you right, like Miami, oh my God, they drag their feet. I can only imagine, I'm gonna guess Illinois is probably, Chicago's probably about the same, right? Big cities, it happens. What they're looking for is the doctor to send those medical reports so that the medical team inside the insurance company can look at those reports and make a decision, right? And sometimes if that client went to go see another specialist, now they got to ask that specialist for medical reports and then the other specialist for medical reports. It could be cumbersome. It really could. If they're delaying, Juan, here's what you do. What you do is you contact the hospital, the doctor's office. You contact the doctor's office. Hi, this is Juan Graziani. Listen, I'm calling in reference to a particular client. Client's name is, Joan Smith. We recently had sent over a medical, a HIPAA form. HIPAA is the name of it. We recently sent your office a HIPAA form for this particular client requesting medical records. And I'm just checking to see what the status of that is. Right? Now they might ask you, well, who do you represent? Right? Who you represent is the insurance company. Well, I represent North American, I represent American National, whatever company it is that you submitted the records on. You're not saying, oh, I'm part of Financial First Responders or I'm part of TKO. They have no idea who the agency is. Their concern is the insurance company. I represent that company. Did you receive the records? I did. Okay, perfect. When can you send those records over? Now, this is the part where I tell you, you got to be there for step A, step B. You got to walk it through. Whatever they tell you, you got to follow up. You want speed? You got to follow up. They're going to say, oh, we'll get it to you in 3 days. Okay, good. I'll call you in 3 days. Call in 3 days. Don't just assume that they're going to do it. Don't just assume they're going to do it. But now you got to push it. Why do I say this? I had a meeting today with my back office team. And my conversation with them was this. Everybody that's involved in an insurance application, everybody, from the underwriter to the case manager to the medical team to the nurse to the doctor sending the medical records, all of them are paid a salary. Every one of them are. They have zero urgency. Zero urgency. They could tell you we'll get it done tomorrow and they don't get it done tomorrow. They can reschedule medicals because it doesn't fit into their calendar. They don't care. They're getting paid. They're getting paid, and I'm screaming to you straight. The people who are more concerned about that case are who? You. And maybe your assistant, because the commission of that case is what supports you financially. It's your job to walk it from this step to this step to this step to this step to this step. Because no one else is going to care about it more than you will. No one else will. But Tony, how many steps do I got to walk it through? Every step is my advice. Become best friends with underwriters. Become best friends with case managers. Seriously. Because they are going to hear, listen, I'm not going to lie. They hear from me all the time. I don't do the whole, I'm just being honest with you. Someone will be like, oh, log into the portal and submit it. Okay, I'll log it in and submit it, but then I'm going to call you to make sure you got it. Like, yeah, that commission affects me. It doesn't affect you. You're getting a salary. I build relationships with the nurses and I tell the nurses, listen, I'll send you all my business, but I got to make sure that whenever I schedule it, you're going to deliver. You're not going to reschedule that medical exam. You're not going to delay sending that report over because some nurses will do the medical exam and then it takes them 2 days to send the report over. And I'm like, wait, no, I need it now. I walk it through every step. So when I submit the business, I'm calling the next day the insurance company. Hey, did you receive the application? You did. Great. Is there a policy number? Look at the questions that I'm asking. I submit the business. I call the next day. ABC Insurance Company. Hi, how are you? My name is Jose Martinez, right? Just for all my legal name, so you guys know it's Jose Antonio Martinez. That's why I go by Tony. But they know me as Jose. I'm Jose Martinez. My writing number is ... and ... Listen, I'm calling in reference to a policy that was just submitted yesterday. I want to see if it's in your queue. Have you received it? I have. Okay, perfect. Is there a policy number on it? Yes. What is it? Boom, 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 boom. Awesome. Has there been an underwriter assigned? There has been. What's their name? What's their phone? What's their email? Boom, 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 boom. Some companies have gatekeepers. They don't let you get in front of the underwriter. Some companies have what's called case managers. They will speak to you on behalf of 4 or 5 different underwriters, but you're not going to talk to the underwriter. You make sure that case manager loves you. Loves you. Okay? I have been known, I have no problem sending them a bottle of wine for Christmas and making sure they know it came from me. Trust me, there's 20 other agents that they're assigned to. You want your stuff pushed to the top of the list and worked faster than everybody else, and make sure they love you. Make sure you turn in quality work. Okay? Okay, so I'll ask them, is there an underwriter? Once I know there's an underwriter, okay, great. What are the stipulations? Because they'll give you a list of stuff. Your job is to get that checklist done. Some of it they're responsible for doing, but again, I'm going to follow up to make sure they did it. Like pulling the medical information bureau, that's not my responsibility. That's what they're supposed to do, but I'm going to make sure they did it. Pulling the motor vehicle report, I'm going to make sure they did. Did you guys pull the MVR? You did. Did you get it? I did. Sometimes they'll say, we didn't get nothing. Can we get a copy of their driver's license? Okay, cool, no problem. I'll read back. Boom, get the driver's license. My job is to get every stipulation to go from need it to have it. Because once they tell me they have it, I then want to go, okay, how much time do you need to check this off the list? Right? The ones that take the longest, again, the medical reports. But an MVR, look, you can look at somebody's medical record in a day. Will you be able to check that off the list by tomorrow? Yes. Because once all the stipulations are checked off, they have no reason to give you an approval. They have no reason not to give you an approval. All the stipulations are met. Your job is to get all the stipulations met. They're not in a hurry. They've got 20 other cases that they're working. I promise you, their salary's coming no matter what. It matters to you. You've got to walk it through every step. Did you receive it? I did. Great. How long is it going to take you to finish it? Oh, by tomorrow, I'll get it done. Okay, perfect. I'll call you tomorrow. Hey, Steve, what's going on? It's Tony. How's your day going? How's your kids? I get to know them. I build a relationship with them. How's that policy looking? Oh, that policy is looking great. If I can get their direct email, even better. Even better. Even better. But some companies will put a case manager, somebody in the middle of the way, and they won't let you get to the underwriter by any means necessary. So your case manager has to become your best friend. NLG gives you a case manager, just so you know. NLG gives you a case manager. North American. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm answering the questions here. We talked about APSs. Boom. The last question, I think it was Puebli. Which companies can you communicate directly with the underwriter? For all I know right now, North American is the only company you will never, ever, ever directly speak to anybody in North America. You call North American, they'll push you away. They will only speak to the IMO or the FMO. That's it. That's all they're going to talk to. Who is that person to you? Neelam. You know how you know? She forwards you underwriting requirements. Now she's good. Now let me ask you this question. Don't you think she's someone that you want to have in your good graces? I think she's someone that for Mother's Day, she should get a card and maybe a flower from you, right? Christmas, you send her something. Trust me, those little things, I promise you, they go a long way because she's doing North American underwriting for everybody in the entire FMO. Everybody, we've got close to 200 writing agents. You're next to this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. I hear everything. Trust me, when somebody gets out of line, I get the email. This agent did da-da-da and da-da-da. Okay, great. I got to go talk to them. But I also hear about the great stuff. This person is so diligent, so this, so that, whatever, right? So Neelam is the only person that communicates with North America. The only person. She'll forward you the underwriting requirements. Perfect. You respond to them back to her. She sends them. She's super quick about it. But nonetheless, I still hold her to the same standard. Neelam, I just sent this to you. When is this you're gonna send it off when? Tomorrow? Okay, great, I'll call you tomorrow. You sent it? Yes, I did. I sent it to them. Awesome. Did they tell you when they were gonna finish it? Oh no, but they usually take 2 days. Okay, perfect. I'll reach out to you in 2 days. I always need a deadline. I think Puebli's the one who picked this up about me. Even with new agents, when I do their orientation, give me a date. Give me a date. If I don't have a date, you're not on my radar. So I need a date. You're gonna finish your licensing by which day? This day. You're gonna finish your this by this day. You're gonna do your analysis by this day. You're gonna get your first batch of leads by this. Boom, 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 boom. I want dates. Because if there's no date, there's no urgency, there's no deadline. There's none. You got to act that way even with your underwriters. Being nice, being respectful, but still letting them know I'm a professional and my income relies on your ability to approve this. So please give me something diligently. Now, I also have no problem. I'll tell you this. If a policy is now a week, all the requirements are there. It's been a week now, they haven't approved it. I have no problem saying, hey, can I talk to a senior case manager? I need to escalate this up to the next level because everything has already been met. There's nothing left, but yet I still don't see an answer. I don't see an approval. My client is getting frustrated. And I don't think that's right. You get what I'm saying? How long should underwritten cases take? They should average 2 weeks. If you're diligent, they should average 2 weeks. They definitely should not take longer than a month. Once you start teetering into 30 days, you got to make sure your client is still very happy, because the client will go through a phase of buyer's remorse. But then you got to get on the horn with your underwriters. When the policy's 30 days in, like I'm telling you, me right now, I'm not a happy camper. I am not a happy camper. My team is going to hear about it left and right. Why is this taking so long? What's going on? It's very simple. They pull a medical information bureau. They pull a motor vehicle report. They pull your credit record. And the fourth thing that you're hearing nowadays is pretty new. It's called the LexisNexis. LexisNexis is a report that they're starting to use. And they use that report to look for patterns. What kind of patterns, you might ask? They look for patterns such as how many times you've changed jobs. How many times have you changed where you lived? How many times have you changed your phone number? They've learned that people that have a habit of not being stationary and those types of things tend to have bad health habits. I don't know how they figured it out, but they did. There's no way around it, unfortunately. Something you want to know about underwriting is this. National Life Group, if they deny you because of LexisNexis, even if they don't take a medical, there's no trying to get them to renegotiate and get a medical exam done. It's done. It's dead. However, American National will give you the choice. They'll say, listen, based on the LexisNexis, we're willing to approve it at standard. But if you want to get a preferred rating, we would require a medical exam. What would you like to do? The questions I always like to ask them whenever someone gets rated is why? What's the reason they got rated? Sometimes they'll tell you. Sometimes they'll say it's confidential information. Okay, it's confidential to who? Me, the agent, or the client? 90% of the time, it's the agent they won't release it to. Okay, perfect. So if I get the client on the phone, you'll release to me what it is that caused the rating. You know why I want to know what caused the rating? Because I now can shop out the market and see if there's a company that might overlook that particular issue. So I'll give the client an option. I'll say, Mr. Client, listen, you know, we applied you at X amount. It was $50. They're looking to approve you at $70 a month. I don't know exactly what the reason is, but we have two choices. We can accept it at 70, or you and I have to get on a conference call with the company so that they can disclose to you what caused it to go from 50 to 70, because they won't release it to me. And then I can do some more legwork to figure out if I can find a company that'll overlook that cause. You know what happens 90% of the times? The client tells you what it is. There's something the client didn't tell you. The client will tell you, oh, it's this. Okay. You know what I tell them afterwards? Once I know that there is something, I'll tell them, listen, can I give you my best advice? Sure. I think the $70 is exactly what I think. That's perfect. I wouldn't go apply somewhere else. I would take that one. That's if they won't release the info to me. Now, if I apply, let's say I apply it preferred, which is a good rating, and it's $100 a month, and it comes back standard, which is a lesser rating, and that same amount of insurance, instead of costing 100, now costs 120, 130. Here's my phone call to the client. You ready? Mr. Client, I have great news. We got you approved. That's awesome. That's what they're going to say. You have two options. I need to know which of the two it is that you wish to take. Right? And then the client will say, okay, what are my options? Here's your options. We can take the exact same amount of insurance that we applied. It's going to cost you $130 a month. Or we can reduce the amount of insurance and it'll be the exact same price that you originally signed up for. Which of the two do you prefer? So what am I doing? I manipulate the illustrations. When someone gets rated, I have to run two illustrations. One with the original monthly amount that they apply for, which is going to cause a lower amount of insurance. One with the original amount of insurance that they apply for, which is going to cause a higher monthly premium. But I want to give them the choice. Mr. Client, great news. We just got you approved. You have two options. I'd love to know which of the two you prefer to take. We can do 70. We can do, $130 a month for $500,000. Or we can do $420,000 for $100 a month. Which one do you want? You know what they do 90% of the times? They take the higher one. They do. But look how I presented it. I have great news. You've been approved. What I don't say is, Mr. Client, they approved you, but you were rated. Why am I going to deliver it in a negative way? Mr. Client, great news. We just got you approved. I need to get on the phone with you to talk to you about your options so you can let me know which one you want to go with so we can move forward. Simple as that. Simple as that. Here are the options, Mr. Client. For $100 a month that you originally applied for, I get you $420,000. And for the same $500,000, or for a $500,000, it'll cost you $130,000. Which one do you want? And I go, and they tell me, oh, I'll take this one, no problem. Keep going. No problem. Someone gets declined. Mr. Client, I have some news for you. I have some good news, I have some bad news. Which one do you prefer? This is how I talk to somebody who gets declined. Mr. Client, I have good news and bad news for you. Which one do you prefer? Right? They're going to say, oh, give me the bad news. Well, here's the bad news, Mr. Client. We're not done with underwriting yet. We're not done with underwriting yet. Here's the good news. I'm a broker and represent over 90% of the companies in the market space. The original company that we applied with doesn't want to take on the risk, unfortunately. Now, here's the good news. I've already reached out to a couple other companies, and I've got these 3 other companies over here that are willing to look at your case. My advice, Mr. Client, we apply urgently. We apply right away. We try to get them to approve. But the good news in all of this, I'm not captive to any one particular company, so I'm not going to have to push you away. I'm going to actually reach out to another company. You know, I have the ability to go to another company, which I've already done for you. Which of these 3 other companies would you like to look at? And yes, when someone gets declined, find out why and start going to other companies and see which one is willing to take on the risk. Again, like I tell you, Mutual of Omaha happens to be one of the best when it comes to medical underwriting. That they'll overlook things that other companies won't. They will. And Mutual of Omaha has a term product, has a final expense product, has an IUL product, and has a GUL product. So whatever it is you applied them for, chances are you can go to Mutual of Omaha and that's your best shot of getting an approval. Now, it's probably going to cost more money, so you want to prep your client for that. Prep your client for that. But that's my process. Now, once a policy gets approved, I'm going to be on for about another 5 more minutes. Okay, let me make sure I'm answering all the questions. I answered that question. North American paramedical exam. Okay, what do you do in that regard? Let me answer that question. Let me answer the e-sign after that. Okay. North American paramedical exam. Who pays? What if there's double? Okay, so do not order a medical if you don't know if they're going to require a medical. I repeat, do not order a medical if you don't know if they're going to require a medical. If you know that they will, then go ahead of time and order the medical exams. Go ahead of time and order the medical exams. My advice to you is find a paramedical nurse in your area, build a phenomenal relationship with that person. Make sure it's good enough that you can communicate with them by text message. They need to know a couple things. You require a level of urgency. So if the application is taken on a Monday, you're expecting medicals to be done Tuesday or Wednesday. I won't leave the meeting where I take the application without getting a medical date if I know that there's going to be a medical requirement. If I know it, like for example, anything over $1 million with American National, it's an automatic medical. So I know if I'm doing $1 million over, I need a medical done, I'm going to get it scheduled before I leave the meeting. While I'm taking the application, Mr. Client, I need you to get a medical exam. I require you to be fasting, so this can only be done in the morning. I try to get all my medical exams done in the morning. People are the healthiest with their blood in the morning than in the afternoon. This has to be done early in the morning, Mr. Client. It's free. It's no cost to you. Okay, they'll come to your house. They'll come to your job. They need to draw blood, take a urine sample, and ask you some medical questions. When can I get that nurse knocking on your door? In the next 24 to 48 hours. Tony, are you really that serious? Yes, I'm that serious. I'm playing with my paper here. Yes, I'm not going to wait a week, 2 weeks to get, no. Nurses will. Nurses will, right? Josh says, or call the nurse with them. You can. You know what I typically do is I'll text message the nurse while I'm taking the application. Hey, can you do a medical in such and such city in the next 2 days? Yes, I can. Okay, perfect. Stand by. And then I'll talk to the client. When do you want to do? Oh, how about Wednesday at 7 o'clock? Okay, perfect. At this address? Perfect. 7 o'clock, Naples, Florida. Wednesday, that work for you? Yes, it does. Okay, look. And I'll tell the nurse, I'll text her, listen, lock it in. When I leave this meeting, I'll send you the details. But at least it's locked in. Boom. If you don't have that relationship and you got to work with a company like Exam One, Make sure you have an account with Exam One where you can log in and schedule it. But do me a favor, have a conversation with whoever leads that department. Make sure they know that you require a level of urgency, and if they're going to reschedule, they have to tell you first. There's nothing that upsets me more than seeing a paramedical team reschedule my client's medical exam because it didn't fit in their calendar. Hell no. You told my client it fit them the first time. Now you're going to move it? Absolutely not. I will raise hell with them if they do that to me. So, but you've got to set that standard from the beginning. From the beginning, you gotta set that standard. Now, if you don't know if they're going to require a medical, do me a favor, do not order a second medical. Because if they order a medical and then you ordered a medical, they will hold you responsible financially for it. And if they don't hold you financially responsible for it, you know what they're going to do? They're going to flow that cost to the IMO. The IMO is going to flow it to me. And then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to flow it to you. So don't order a medical exam ahead of time until the underwriter requests it. Now, when the underwriter requests it, I would be diligent and call them and be like, hey, underwriter, before you order it, can I order it myself? Before you order it, can I order it myself? They might say yes. Allianz is notorious for pre-ordering medicals. You got to let Allianz know ahead of time. When underwriting begins, hey, Allianz, you're my underwriter, perfect. Listen, if a medical needs to get done, I need to know ahead of time because I'd like to take charge of that myself. I don't want to let Allianz do it because you know what Allianz will do? They'll be very generic about it. They're like, oh, order a medical, and then the medical exam isn't for another 3 weeks. Now you're waiting for 3 weeks. No. Mr. Underwriter, if you require a medical exam, I would love to take charge of that. Could you let me know ahead of time so I can run that? I can run point on that. Yes, cool, no problem. They'll tell you, medical exam needed. Okay, perfect. Then you call the nurses department. Hey, I got a medical exam, but I need to get this done in the next 2-3 days. Client's leaving out of town and I need to urgently get it done. You know how many times I say that same thing? Client's leaving out of town, I need to get it urgently done. Every one of my clients are urgently leaving out of town. I need to get this done right away. That's what you want to do. Case note everything. Communicate everything with the underwriter. Everything. If they say they need a medical, check to make sure if they ordered it or not. And if they haven't ordered it, take point on it. Take point. Learn how the companies operate because every one of them will be a little bit different. But once you figure out that process, boom. Let me make sure I answered all the questions. North American I answered. This one I answered. E-sign. Okay. Some companies will allow you to use a service like DocuSign or Sign Now as a way to gather signatures for certain documents. Okay? Some companies won't. Find out which companies allow it and which ones don't and get it in writing. I'm going to tell you right now, National Life Group will not let you use your Sign Now account, your DocuSign to get signatures on any kind of document. American National will. However, there's always one document, no matter which company it is, they're never going to allow it to be electronic. It's your 1035 replacement form. If you're moving money from an existing permanent insurance into your new insurance, and they need to move that money, that needs to be a wet ink signature. Wet ink, no matter what, it needs to be wet ink. So just know that. But use the company's software. Now, delivery receipts, right? Once a policy is approved, there's phases. It gets approved. Perfect. If the policy is approved, the way you applied it, exactly how you applied it, they'll immediately take out the first monthly payment the next day from the client. Once they take that monthly payment, it becomes what's called issued. Issued means, hey, we've already taken first payment. This policy is live. Then what happens after that is they print out paperwork, and in the paperwork will be what's called a policy delivery receipt, PDR. You need to get that signed by the client. Once the client signs it and you get it back to the insurance company, it's now called in force. Once it's in force, you get paid. You get paid. So what does that mean? Here's what it means. Don't look at something and be like, I'm approved already and think your job is done. The word approval may sound good, but until that policy is in force, it's approved by the company, it's paid for by the client, and the client has signed the paperwork accepting it. Once those three things happen, that's when you get paid. Some companies will pay you ahead of time before they even receive the policy delivery receipts. But I need you to understand something. If you don't get those policy delivery receipts within a certain amount of time, they will cancel that policy, charge you back, and you got to start all over again. And the client won't be happy with that. They will not be happy with that. American National, give you some tips here, right? Things that I've learned. American National, depending on the underwriter you call, they'll send you electronically the delivery receipts even before you've gotten the policy in your hand. I love that. Why? Because once I get that electronic delivery receipt, I can. American National will allow you to use Sign Now and DocuSign to submit the electronic delivery receipts and get the client to sign it electronically. You cannot send it to your email, it has to be their email. Have them sign it, send it back, boom. Even though the client hasn't physically received the policy in their hands, the policy is already in force and delivered, right? I'll typically go over an illustration of the final product with them so that they see it, they'll sign it, and then commissions come in, even though you haven't sent the policy yet to the client's hands. Okay? Now, North American and National Life Group have the ability to send an electronic version of the application to the client. I love using that. Like, if I can avoid having to even do a delivery, mail the policy, or go meet the client and just do it electronically all day, every day. I'll do it that way. All day, every day. I'll do it that way. All day, every day. Did I say all day, every day? All day, every day. Speed, speed, speed. I'll tell you another tip, and I've learned this along the way. National Life Group has a two-step signing process when you submit an electronic application. Don't think just because the client received that first notification of an application and signed that the job is done. They actually have to wait for a second part to come to sign. That's how NLG operates. American National is just one signature, which is great. Okay, North American is a two-part process as well. And the second part is a full medical questionnaire on North American. So you need to know that. They're going to first get an email notification. Hey, there's an application in your name. They'll open it up. They'll sign it. Then what happens is based on that signature, that first signature allows the insurance company to pull their medical report. Based on what they find in the medical report will determine if they're going to require a medical exam or if they can do what's called rapid underwriting, which means that they'll do a second part to the client. That second part is a full questionnaire of medical questions. The client gets that second part, fills out those questions, and based on how they answer, will help the underwriter determine if they want to get a medical exam done or not. But just know, North American has a two-part signing process. National Life Group has a two-part signing process. American National and Allianz have a one-part signing process. Now listen, I'm not going to lie, I could go on for another hour and teach you more about underwriting, but I'm not going to. I've already gone 15 minutes over on time. Hopefully this was beneficial. The little tips, the little nuggets, the little this. Here's what I will tell you. My exposure to some of these companies is about as much as you guys are. I have a lot of experience with NLG, American National, Mutual of Omaha. I have a lot of experience because I wrote those for 4 years, at practice company. Prior to that, my exposure was with Prudential, Nationwide, Transamerica. Prior to that, my exposure was with Northwestern Mutual. So a lot of these newer companies that I've known about, not newer companies in our platform, right? Like Allianz, North American. I'm learning this stuff along the way. But the one thing I'm not afraid to do is to make sure that I'm hand-holding this application through every step. Where are you now? Here's the person that I communicate. Okay, great. What's happening? Right? Oh, we have to do this. Okay, cool. That's what you got to do. How long does that normally take? It takes about a day. Okay, perfect. I'll call you tomorrow. Like, I hand-hold it through the steps all the way through because I always remind myself, the medical team, the nurse, the underwriter, the case manager, all of them are paid a salary. All of them are. None of them have an urgency for this to pay out because their income does not derive upon the approval of this business. Your income does. Your job is to walk it through. And if you get an assistant, make sure they're walking it through. And if it's your significant other doing it, then make sure they're walking it through. But somebody's got to walk it through. You know how you know if you're doing a good job or not? None of your policies should take longer than a month. None of them should. And I'll tell you this, only about 10% of them should get to a month. The rest of them should approve in 2-3 weeks. I mean, literally, boom, boom, boom. Once you understand the flow, once your case managers know that you understand the flow, you build credibility with them because they know you know what you're doing. I'll finish it with this. If you deal with a client that has a couple medical issues, don't be afraid to take out a Word document and do some notes explaining to the underwriter what happened with this person's medical history, because when they see that you took the extra steps to explain the medication, the treatment, the date, the this, and all that stuff, they know you're doing a good job on the field. And then you know what ends up happening? They don't look as intense on your applications. But if all of your applications are what's called clean slating, meaning you're putting no for everything and you're like, oh, let the underwriter figure it out, I promise you, they will scrutinize your applications 20 times more than they'll scrutinize anybody else's, because they know that you're just kind of blindly taking the application and you're leaving it upon them to find the errors. And if it happens enough times, they can cancel your contract if you clean slate. So make sure when someone says yes to one of the medical questions, you take the time to answer that question and write some notes down about that question and include it in the cover letter to the underwriter. Include it in the cover letter to the underwriter. If you're doing virtual meetings and you're not meeting the people face to face, picture of the driver's license. Picture of the driver's license. If you're doing annuities, always a picture of the driver's license, even if you're face to face or not. If you're dealing with a non-resident or a resident, get their documentation in a picture, front and back. Resident alien cards, front and back. Driver's license, only the front needed. And you don't need the front. You don't need the driver's license if you saw the person in face to face. But do your due diligence. If it's virtual, get a copy of that license. Get a copy of the license and show that you verified their ID. Does anybody have any questions before I close off? Anybody? Let me get some questions here. It'd be a big deal if you can make it a big deal, okay? Or call the nurse with them, okay? Is that something you can note on the application? Josh, Collier, you asked that question, but I think you got logged off. I don't know what that was in reference to. Anybody have any questions?
No, that was in reference to the to get the pyramid. If you can have it requested on the application, if you're gonna have the pyramid scheduled before.
I don't see why not. I mean, I believe that there's nothing bad that comes from over communication. Honestly, over communicate with the underwriter. Make the person your friend. Make them know exactly what's going on in the field by painting them a good picture. Okay, but the best way, you handhold that application from beginning to freaking end. I promise you. And get delivery receipts, please. I know agents that they would get paid and they forget to sit with the client. They forget to do it. They forget to deliver the policies. I need you to know something. The free look period doesn't begin until delivery receipts are in the hands of the insurance company. And what the free look period is that 2-week period where the client could renegotiate, cancel the policy, and get all their money back. If that free look period doesn't begin, technically speaking, the client could have their policy for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then on the third year be like, hey, I want to cancel this policy and get a full refund. And they're going to get a full refund because that free look period never began. You think the insurance company will be happy with you if you caused them to have to pay back 100% of the premiums? Not only will they pay back the premiums, not only will they charge you back the commission, they'll fine you $500 and they'll cancel your contract. Yes, I've seen it. So get delivery receipts, sign, close those cases. Close the cases. Close the cases. I'll tell you one tip and then I'll let you go, something that I like to do. When a policy gets approved for underwriting, let's say it's $750,000, I'll tell the underwriter, Mr. Underwriter, what's the total amount of insurance that I can get this client without having to do more underwriting? They'll tell you, well, the client applied for 750, so we gave her that, but technically she could get 900,000 more without any kind of, she can get 900,000 without any kind of further underwriting. And what I'll do is, right, what's the difference? 750 to 900 is a $150,000 difference, right? On the delivery, I'll bring with me a $150,000 term policy on the side. I'll be like, listen, you were approved for this, but I want you to know they also approved you for this second policy if you want to take it. So this is an IUL, but this is the term. You can take it. It's an extra 10, 15 bucks. You're already approved for it. It's up to you if you want it or not. This is the term, but here's a secondary term. You can take it if you want to. You're already approved for it, whether you Whether you want to take it or you don't, you're already approved. So you tell me what you want to do. And they'll look at that second policy and be like, oh, it's an extra, you know, $10, $15. I'll take it. And you made another sale. I mean, honestly, it's that simple. It's that simple to upsell. But you got to take those extra steps, call the underwriter and ask them, hey, how much more insurance could this person get without having to do any more underwriting whatsoever? When you get into $2 million or higher, expect to have to do a balance sheet of their finances, right? Profit and losses. When you're doing $2 million or higher of insurance, the underwriters will ask for that. They might even ask for tax returns. So just prep your client for that world. Cool. All right. Have a good one, guys. Be blessed. Okay. Take a look at our new YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Okay. I'm posting the videos up there. So subscribe to it as much as you can. Okay. And you know, when you have comments, questions, hit me up. If you're watching the YouTube channel and you wanted to get some training and development from some of the people that are here, my number is 239-784-1118. Hit me up. Love to chat with you guys and put you in contact with one of the agency owners in your territory.